In preparing for this third Teddy Talk, I thought about our first two conversations and reflected a bit about what has happened over the past several months in schools around the country. You might recall that in the first talk, I spoke about intentionality and commitment, about taking risks, and called upon principals to be lead learners, or first penguins, if you will, in their buildings, acknowledging the real possibility of failure when implementing new strategies and platforms in these unprecedented times. In our second episode, we reflected on the importance of maintaining purpose. It became clear that this would require changes in processes, protocols, changes in the planning and delivery of instruction, and the need to build capacity of teachers around the use of these new tools. While the tools themselves are important, we knew that it would be critical that principals lead teachers to appropriately use these new tools and resources while measuring the impact on both teaching and learning. Well, here we are, approaching the second semester of our unprecedented school year. And although there have been many changes since March of last year, one thing has not changed. School principals are still charged with growing and supporting teachers in order to increase student achievement. It has become increasingly more important that the principal be the lead learner in the building. Leading the learning in the building and strengthening teacher effectiveness are not finite events for today's principal. It is an ongoing critical process which requires the principal and the leadership team to serve as role models and build teacher capacity through a school-wide evaluation system that's followed up with professional development and coaching. This very critical role of the principal and the leadership team led me to the focus of this third Teddy Talk. I'm calling it Moving Forward, the Principal as Coach for Teacher Effectiveness and Student Achievement. We at NIET believe that an effective school principal is a strong instructional leader who works to build the capacity of others through a system of continuous learning, data analysis, and coaching. His consistent use of data to make instructional decisions and to support and coach teachers is necessary to move the school forward in much the same way that a baseball coach wants to move his team to excel. This reminds me of a short story I came across recently which illustrates the life and mindset of a coach. It goes like this. The dinner guests were sitting around the table discussing life. One man, a CEO, tried to explain the problem with college athletics. He argued, what's a kid going to learn from someone who decided his best option in life was to be a coach? He reminded the other dinner guests what they say about coaches. Those who can't play or those who coach. To stress his point, he said to another guest, you're a coach, be honest. What do you make? Having a reputation for honesty and frankness, the guest replied, you want to know what I make? I make kids work harder than they ever thought they could. I make receiving a C+ feel like winning a Congressional Medal of Honor. I make kids run 90 minutes of practice and sweat. I make kids turn dreams into reality. You want to know what I make? I make kids wonder. I make them question. I make them criticize. I make them apologize and mean it. I make them cooperate. I make them competitive and respectful. I make them show all their work in front of hostile crowds and perfect their acts of sportsmanship. I make them understand that if you have the will to follow your dreams, should anybody try to judge you by a mistake you made, you must pay no attention because you tried and gave it your all. I make teams from individuals who work together to build success. He paused and continued, you want to know what I make? I make a difference. I make leaders. I make other professions possible. Then he asked the CEO, what do you make? As I reflect on this story and the coach's responses, I can't help but think about a school principal's role as a coach, supporting both his leadership team and his team of teachers. In their role as coaches, principals face some of the same challenges and opportunities of any good coach and encounter some of the same self-reflection questions. How can I help my teachers to feel good about working harder in these trying times than they ever have before, and yet maintain a positive attitude? How can I help my teachers to turn their dreams of teaching and reaching kids into reality? And how can I encourage my teachers to wonder about what they could do differently? Or how can I continue to build a cohesive team from individuals, a team that works together to achieve student success? The answers, I believe, lie in implementing a comprehensive system for growing and supporting teachers. A system that includes a research-based instructional rubric, a system that's not based solely on compliance and accountability. As mentioned in previous talks, we must move from an observation-evaluation model based on compliance and accountability to one based on growth and support. This will involve superintendents and districts who grow principals, also principals and assistant principals who grow teachers, and teachers who grow students. The system should include continuous gathering of student and teacher data, good strong feedback, professional development based on teacher and student need, and consistent ongoing coaching. Research clearly shows that asking reflective questions, seeking teachers' insights and expertise, and focusing on student work and student learning help principals to be more effective. A professor of mine years ago defined an effective coach as a passionate, dedicated individual who unlocks hidden potential and maximizes a team's performance by believing, encouraging, and developing. I see a strong connection between this definition of an effective coach and the first three descriptors of the instructional leadership domain in the NIET Principal Standards Rubric for the area of teacher effectiveness. According to the NIET Principal Standards Rubric, principals strengthen teacher effectiveness when they 1. Develop their own and their team's ability to utilize a school-wide evaluation system and support plan to increase teacher effectiveness. Secondly, when they develop their team's ability to evaluate teaching and learning through the use of student data. And thirdly, when they develop and support their team's ability to provide specific evidence from an observed lesson that is connected to an overall strength, an area for growth, and a specific recommendations for next steps for a teacher. I'd like to elaborate a little bit more on each of these three descriptors. Developing the team's ability to utilize a school-wide evaluation system and support plan is critical to increasing teacher effectiveness. The principal and the leadership team on a campus consistently work to improve teachers' instructional practices in order to have a positive impact on student achievement. The principal may be tempted to believe that simply evaluating teacher practice will automatically result in improvements. Instead, leadership teams need to realize that it's by supporting teachers that real change and better results can happen. We cannot evaluate a teacher into getting better. We must support them into getting better. It's like my old grandfather used to say, you can't just weigh a pig over and over and expect him to get fat. You need to feed him. Well, a comprehensive observation and evaluation system should be designed to feed teachers what they need to grow professionally. Observation and evaluation of teachers is most effective when it provides teachers with accurate information about their effectiveness in the classroom, with a focus and opportunity for improving the instructional practices and ultimately their student performance. In other words, the support provided must be tailored to the instructional needs of individual teachers. Support efforts will vary and might include things like whisper coaching when bringing a teacher to observe another teacher, or one-on-one sessions in the area of planning, delivery, or assessment, depending on the area of needs for a particular teacher. The principal and members of the leadership team should also consider things like modeling, team teaching, peer observation and feedback, as well as weekly subject-alike professional development sessions based on common student and teacher needs and led by capable and respected teacher leaders. It is important that whatever new learning is being presented to teachers, that it be based on real needs specific to teachers and students within your building, and that the new learning be field tested by teacher leaders within your building with your students. This brings me to the second descriptor in the Principal Standards Rubric in the area of instructional leadership for teacher effectiveness. It says strong principals develop and support their team's ability to evaluate teaching and learning through the use of student data. The principal has a responsibility to develop and support members of his leadership team in their ability to effectively evaluate instruction, grounded in student outcomes. The Teaching Standards Rubric provides a foundation for the evaluation system and defines the general parameters for effective instruction and differentiated performing levels. However, the simple statement of the standards is insufficient. Developing a common understanding of each of the performance levels in the evaluation system and what those performance levels will look like in the classroom helps maintain a fair and equitable evaluation process. Over time, and after leadership team members have worked with their assigned career teachers, it will be necessary for the team to revisit those common expectations. Shared understanding of expectations is essential to establishing iterative reliability, providing consistency in feedback, and avoiding score inflation. Score inflation can result from the desire to recognize teachers' hard work and even evidence of changes in classroom instruction. But the integrity of the evaluation system is based on accurately showing or measuring student achievement growth. Keeping student data as part of the conversation helps leaders and principals to have productive and relevant coaching conversations with teachers on their campus. Principals and their leadership team members should consider using student work samples when coaching a teacher following an observation in their effort to evaluate and support both the teaching and the learning in the classroom. Some good reflective questions to consider might be, what do you notice about student understanding? What are the misconceptions for learning? What do you notice about students individually? Who are the bubble mastery kids? What is their understanding of this content? Are they on track to reach their goals for the first benchmark? Why or why not? How might you adjust your lesson plans and your instruction to address this? This way, coaching conversation centers not only on teacher behaviors, but what on students are saying, doing, and learning. The third descriptor in the Principal Standards Rubric for instructional leadership that targets teacher effectiveness says that strong principals develop and support their team's ability to provide specific evidence from an observed lesson that is connected to an overall strength, an area for growth, and a specific recommendation for next steps outlined for that particular teacher. A post-observation coaching conference is a powerful opportunity to support individual teachers in the school. Principals should use this venue to strengthen their own coaching skills and those of other members of their leadership team. Leadership team members should work together to make sure that teachers have a predictable professional experience in each post-observation conference. A teacher's trust of the process will grow as they experience quality feedback every time with every evaluator. With that trust, a teacher is more likely to enter into the process open to growing professionally and at a meaningful level. Providing coaching connected to evidence collected during the evaluation helps build trust between the evaluator and the teachers. Before leaving that interaction, a principal and other observers should talk about the next steps with the teacher and provide them with a recommendation to improve their practice. This year, more than ever, principals and their leadership teams need to take a strength-based approach to coaching in these post-conferences. Teachers have had their classroom routines completely upended, and principals can help by making connections between strong practices that teachers were already using in the classroom and how these practices can translate to virtual, hybrid, or other learning environments. Getting this right will require principals to spend time in classrooms with collaborative learning teams, engaging in the specific content and classroom challenges that teachers are experiencing, whether in person or virtual, and focusing on the feedback and the specific detailed teacher and student actions that are grounded in the curriculum that the teacher is teaching. as well as their individual needs and the needs of their students. Some reflective questions that you as a principal might consider using in the post-conference setting might be, what went well in the lesson? What evidence do you have that it went well? What student evidence do you have that it went well? What do you need to do to make sure that those things continue to go well? What didn't go well? What evidence do you have that it didn't go well? What might you have done differently? Think about how you might use your instructional strength as a way to impact what didn't go well. In order to effectively coach in a post-observation conference, it is important that you as an observer collect good scripting notes that depict what the teacher says and does, as well as what students say and do. As I mentioned earlier too, having samples of student work from the lesson also adds credibility to the conversation, increases authenticity, and reduces the chances of the teacher taking feedback personally. As I mentioned in a previous talk, a good way for a principal to build a common understanding of what effective instruction looks and sounds like among his team members is to facilitate frequent learning walks in small groups, debrief those learning walks, and use the information gathered to plan professional development opportunities for individual teachers or small groups of teachers. These learning walks also allows team members to build inner reliability in regards to effective teaching practices. And remember, purposeful learning walks can be effective in a virtual setting as well as face-to-face settings. Throughout this whole process, do not forget about your own needs for support and professional growth as a school principal. Ask yourself, what do I need from those who grow and support me in this regard? What can my supervisor do that will help me be a more effective coach? Ask your supervisor to be at your school more frequently as a visible supporter and partner in the work. Ask them to go into classrooms with you and talk about what you see. Reflective conversations between principals and their coaches or supervisors not only enhance the principal's capacity for decision making, but also lead to collective reflection amongst educators in the building. The level of collaboration and reflection needs to start with leadership if it's going to be a part of the school culture. If principal supervisors don't see themselves as coaches, districts are failing to employ a resource that's already in place in most of the school systems. The support should be job embedded, based in classrooms, in professional learning moments where your work as a principal is done. The coaching provided for principals in these settings will then shape how they coach teachers, giving them the skills and experience to use a strengths-based approach to ensure that evaluations include meaningful and actionable feedback, and to create a culture of coaching and professional learning in their own school. As we near the end of our conversation today, I think about athletes who excel at their sports. Take Serena Williams, for example. She has a tennis coach. Tiger Woods has a golf coach. Babe Ruth and Derek Jeter had a baseball coach. Great athletes, all athletes, benefit from coaching. Similarly, I believe that there's not a teacher in any of your buildings that can't be better at what he or she does. We all can improve. And there's not a child anywhere who doesn't deserve such a teacher and principal. A teacher who wants to grow, and a principal who understands what his or her role is in supporting such growth. So go and make it so. As a first step in making it so, I ask that you reflect on your efforts in moving forward, coaching for teacher effectiveness. As I've done at the end of the last 2 Teddy Talks, I want you to think about things that you would want to stop, start, or continue doing. In other words, what might be something that you'd want to stop doing in your present role? Ask yourself, what are the things that I'm doing now in regards to coaching and observing teachers just because they keep me in my comfort zone? What do I need to start doing in order to be a better coach to support my teachers? Ask yourself, what are some risky, bold actions that would strengthen me as an instructional leader and a coach? And lastly, what do you want to continue doing in your role to support school leaders and your teachers? Ask yourself, what can I continue to do to make sure that I'm coaching and supporting my teachers in a way that impacts their effectiveness? I'd like to close our talk today with a quote from Tim Galway, a former tennis coach and author of The Inner Game. It reads, "Effective coaching is unlocking a person's potential to maximize their own performance. It's helping them to learn rather than teaching them." And to this I would add, and it doesn't happen by accident. Good luck, stay safe, and have a great year. Thank you.